Zombies follow the easiest route. Interstates and flat ground become a delivery system for panic and teeth. Today, we're breaking down the top 5 states and why some are natural safe havens and others are just zombie highways. Let's begin. Number 5, West Virginia. While everyone runs west, you should look east. Why? Kinetic friction. Zombies and refugees flow like water. They take the path of least resistance. West Virginia is nothing but resistance. The entire state is a jagged rock covered in dense forest. There are no straight roads here. A horde of 10,000 zombies migrating from DC will break their ankles in these ravines before they ever reach your perimeter. Most people look at a map and see lines. A protector looks at a map and sees friction. The state also has a culture of self-reliance. The population density is low, and the coal infrastructure means there are deep, underground assets that most people don't even know exist. The only reason it's number 5 and not number 1? It is trapped. It is bordered by high population death zones like Pennsylvania and Virginia. You will have to hold the line against the initial wave. But if you blow the bridges early, you're sitting in a castle made of mountains. And if you don't have mountains, your next best friend is culture.
Number 4, Utah. This pick has nothing to do with geography and everything to do with the people next door. In every other state, when the trucks stop running, the grocery stores are empty in 72 hours. Families starve by week 2. In Utah, that timeline is completely different. Due to the heavy influence of the LDS Church, Utah is the only state in the Union where a massive percentage of the civilian population maintains a year's supply of food. This is not a stereotype, it is a logistical reality. When the supply chain collapses, Utah doesn't panic buy, they just go to the basement. This means fewer people fighting over resources in the streets, fewer desperate raiders kicking down your door for a can of beans, and a society that remains stable enough for your children to sleep at night. Geography is your secondary shield here. Look at the map to the west, the Great Salt Deck Desert. That is 100 miles of salt and death. A zombie horde migrating from California has to cross a wasteland with no shade, no water, and no food. The sun will bake them dry before they reach the Salt Lake Valley. But what if you don't trust your neighbors to save you? Then you let physics do the killing for you.
Number 3, North Dakota. This pick relies on one fundamental law of physics, thermodynamics. Zombies have no metabolism. They cannot generate body heat. They are dead meat. Do you know what happens to dead meat in North Dakota in January? It turns into a rock. For 6 months out of the year, this state is a freezer. The average low temperature in winter can drop to 20 or 30 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. In those conditions, the zombie threat drops to 0. Their fluids freeze, their muscle tissue solidifies, and they become statues. While survivors in Florida and Texas are fighting agile, rotting corpses year-round, families in North Dakota get a ceasefire every winter. You can walk right up to a frozen zombie and shatter it with a hammer. This seasonal pause allows you to sleep soundly, travel safely, and build the fortifications your family needs without being harassed. North Dakota also solves the energy crisis, the Bakken oil fields. This state is sitting on oceans of energy. Small communities here are more likely to keep generators running and machinery moving than anywhere else. The downside, you have to survive North Dakota. The cold that kills the zombies will kill your family just as fast if you aren't prepared. But as we always say, cold is a physics problem. Zombies are a chaos problem. I can solve the physics problem. I can build a fire. I cannot predict a horde. I'll take the cold. But if you want the odds completely on your side, nothing beats simply not being on the map in the first place.
Number 2, Wyoming. If you want to survive a viral outbreak, the best strategy is simply not to be where the virus is. Wyoming is the masterclass in invisibility. This state has the lowest population in the lower 48. We are talking about fewer than 6 people per square mile. There are entire counties in Wyoming with more antelope than human beings. In a zombie apocalypse, the equation is simple. Zombies equal people. Fewer people means fewer zombies. If the entire population of Wyoming turned infected overnight, you could still drive for hours without seeing one. This low density solves the raider problem too. On the East Coast, if you light a fire, someone sees it. In Wyoming, you can hide your family in a valley and remain invisible for years. Wyoming is also an energy fortress. It is the largest coal producer in the US. While the rest of the world goes dark, the small, localized power grids in Wyoming, run by coal and wind, have the highest probability of staying online. The only reason it's not number one is that the growing season is short. You'll be eating a lot of elk and beef, but you won't be growing much corn. So what if you want Wyoming's invisibility, West Virginia's walls, and actual food? That's where number one comes in. But first, we have to talk about the trap.
Dishonorable mention: Texas. Before we unveil number one, we have to address the elephant in the room. I can see the comments already. What about Texas? We have all the guns. Texas is a trap on the map. Yes, you have guns, but you also have 30 million people, vast flat highways that act as conveyor belts for hordes, and a climate that accelerates disease. Heat speeds up decomposition, yes, but it also breeds bacteria, flies, and plague. Texas is an overcrowded petri dish with firearms. A horde from Houston can walk to Dallas in a week without hitting a single natural barrier. No mountains, no winter, just open road. If Texas is home, I get it. Roots matter. Just stop telling yourself the guns make up for the map. They don't. Do not bet your family's life on Texas without a plan that respects those numbers. Number one, Idaho. The American Redout. Idaho is the perfect intersection of the three things you need to rebuild civilization: water, food, and walls. Let's look at the Snake River Plain. It is a massive agricultural belt that produces enough wheat, potatoes, and cattle to feed a nation. Unlike Wyoming, you can actually farm here at scale. Unlike North Dakota, the season is manageable. But the real magic is the walls. Idaho is surrounded by some of the most impassable wilderness on the North American continent. To the east, the Rockies. To the west, Hell's Canyon, which is deeper than the Grand Canyon. It is a natural castle. It is shielded from the refugees of the Pacific Northwest by the Cascades and hundreds of miles of nothing. It is shielded from California by the deserts of Nevada. Idaho also has massive hydroelectric power. Over 50% of the state's power comes from dams. Dams are passive. They don't need coal trucks or pipelines. As long as the river flows, the lights stay on. In Idaho, you have the low population of Wyoming, the defensive terrain of West Virginia, and the food production of the Midwest. It is the fortress for a reason. If you want to survive the first night, go to a bunker. If you want your grandchildren to survive, go to Idaho.
Now, most of you aren't packing up and moving to Idaho next week. That's fine. The real lesson here isn't go buy a farm in the Redout. The lesson is to grade your own area on the same four axes: friction, food, density, and power. If you can't change the state, you change your position inside it. Find the kinetic friction in your county. Find the low density. Stretch your food buffer. Get as close as you can to a passive or local power source. That's how you turn hard mode into something your kids can actually survive. Now, I want to hear from you. I know the Texans are already typing their angry comments. Go ahead, tell me why I'm wrong. If you had to pick one state to make your last stand, where is it and why? If you found this useful, hit the like button so YouTube keeps feeding you competence instead of fantasy. And if you are thinking of driving your family to one of these states, you need to click this video right here next, because most bug-out trucks are actually rolling coffins, and I walk through exactly how to tell the difference before you put your kids in the passenger seat. I'll see you in the archives.